everyone. I'm Angela Kirkian, Director of Education here at PPA. And today I want to welcome you to another segment of In It Together. It's been a really challenging time. And if you've been on social media at all, you know how hard it can be. And people are angry and frustrated. And there's a lot out there that's just really hard, right? So now going and looking for something that's positive and light and hopeful. I want to thank and appreciate our social media manager, Evelyn. She is on social media quite a lot, and I asked her for her help in finding people who are sharing goodness and light on social media. And she directed me to this wonderful, wonderful man, Myron Fields, who I get to introduce to you right now. Myron, thank you so much for joining us today.
You are welcome, Angela. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I just want to tell everyone, I've only just recently met Myron, but we had just a really heartwarming conversation. And I'd like to say I can call him my friend now because his heart is just beautiful. And this is such a great opportunity for us to get to share a little bit. So Myron, let's talk a little bit about just kind of what's going on in your world today.
Well, my world is quite similar to everyone else's world, and we're being affected by COVID. Um, it's different. It's challenging. Um, I've never had to experience something like this. However, uh, we have to face it. This is our world. This is our new norm. And we can face it with positivity or we can face it with negativity. Seeing as COVID has already provided negativity to the world, I'm decided to face this with positivity to the best of my human ability.
Which you have, so Evelyn introduced me to you through Instagram. And I went to your Instagram account and I fell in. I just fell in and probably resurfaced maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes later, just feeling so much better about the world, better about humanity. And just having people like you in the world who are doing this is so wonderful. I think that artists are important in the world. We sometimes take our gifts for granted, but we're really here to shine a light, right? And to show people what's important, both when it's positive and when it's negative, right? Just to really be part of that voice. And you've done this beautifully. I would love to pull up your Instagram account so we can actually start talking about some of the stuff. So let me just go ahead and pull that up here. All right, let's take it. There we go. This is one of the first things that I actually came up on, and I love this. Like you totally hooked me.
Oh, thanks.
When you can't fish, mend nets, and I love that idea that you're being active. You're really being doing things right now, right in the midst of this. And this was at the beginning. This was kind of in March. But can you tell me about this post and kind of where you were in that moment?
Well, a lot of my background, or just seeing myself, is affected by my faith as a Christian. I don't think of my faith as just a book of morals that I should follow in order to get into heaven, but rather I think that our faith should affect every area of our life, whether it's our business, our creativity. And I believe I was walking to the grocery store and I was thinking about a story of a guy by the name of Peter who was a fisherman, and there was a time when he wasn't catching fish and he was along the seashore, the area where he worked, and he was mending the net. And I started thinking, right now we're in the midst of this COVID, and of course we can't, be in person with people and photograph clients, but one thing we can do is we can mend the nets. And the nets for me as a photographer are those skills, those techniques. It's even the business aspect. A lot of things I did during the height of COVID, when we were on shutdown, was a lot of time spent in business, whether it was business marketing, finance, or even just different ways to grow the business 2x for this year and the coming year. I still believe that even in the midst of COVID, that we can have thriving businesses It may require some pivoting, but I still believe, and it's been shown that we can have thriving businesses and still meet our business goals, even though they may have been affected by a few months of shutdown. So for me, it was a time to just really mend the nets, really make sure that the foundation is sure, so that when we are able to be in person with clients, that we can do that more effectively, that we can work more efficiently, that we can really grow our businesses 2x.
And let's talk a little bit about that, because one of the things that you talked to me about was the importance and value of mentors in your life.
Mentorship is important. Prior to being a photographer, I studied music, and I played piano for 20 years. I've also had the opportunity to play instruments like the tenor saxophone, acoustic guitar, and cello. And undoubtedly, my music has been affected by mentors, whether those are people who have actually been mentors or people whose music has influenced me. So I knew the importance of having great mentors as a musician. And undoubtedly, that has helped me even as a photographer, having great mentors in my life, whether it's helped with lighting or business or composition. I do have two great mentors. One I have that has helped me with really a lot of the basics of photography, and I have another mentor who's helping with a lot of the business of photography. It's important to have someone to look up to, and someone who you can talk to, someone who you can have a conversation with, and really someone who can help you be accountable.
Yeah, that accountability part I think is one of the most important features of that too, right? And sometimes I think mentors also show us things about ourselves that we didn't even know, that we can't possibly see because we're too close to ourselves. And that can
Certainly.
be a really remarkable thing, because I think they can bring out more of the good that we aren't aware that we do in the world, right?
Yes,
which
yes,
is, which is really wonderful. Your posts are so inspiring. We're going to talk about a few of these here, because like I said, as I went through, I fell in, and I think I fell in because there's such a variety of topics going on in your Instagram. And congratulations! I know you just hit a big number of followers, so that's really exciting.
yeah,
I think
thanks.
you'll get a few more followers after this.
Oh,
But I
cool.
love it because it took me through a story, of what's going on in our world today. It was inspiring, but it was also facing some tough issues. But it's also showing your clients in their best light. It was also introducing pieces of yourself into that. So I kind of want to take our viewers on that journey a little bit. This was one of my other favorite posts as I was going through. And I love this because it's your prayer for the creative entrepreneur during this crazy, time of quarantine. Do you want to read this? I love your voice, so I'll let you read this.
Oh, I'll have to pull that up on my phone.
Oh, you know what?
Um,
I'll read it for you then, and then you can talk
but
to
I,
me about it if that's okay. It
yeah,
just says, "Dear creative entrepreneur, I pray that some of us use this quarantine as a time to develop boldness. Boldness to stop second guessing yourself, boldness to ask for help, boldness to persist even in challenging times, boldness to stop casting the pearl of your well-developed gifting before the swine." And that last line is really where you got me. Like, I loved all of this, and I was like, ah, yes. But tell me what you meant by that, casting
sir.
pearl of your well-developed gifting before the swine.
Yeah. I once read a quote by Nina Simone. I call her the high priestess of soul. She said something that was very powerful. It's actually in her Netflix documentary. She said that she felt compelled as an artist to speak to the times in which she was living. That quote has stuck with me. And I believe that it's important that as artists, we speak to the times in which we're living.
Mm.
And I truly believe that as artists, and I call photographers and musicians and those in the creative field artists as a reminder to them that they are artists.
Yes.
Um, I know that as a portrait and wedding photographer, sometimes it's frowned upon by others, but I still believe that's art. We're using artistic techniques to paint people with light in order to show them the beauty of who they are. But I said all that to say that we must remind ourselves that this is not about Instagram. This is not about likes, follows, and comments. This is a well-developed gift that many have developed, and we should not just cast it before the swine of likes, trading our gifts for likes and follows, and becoming a puppet to what others want. But really, it's important that in a world so full of echoes, that we develop our voice, that we have a voice that is signature, and that takes time to develop. And it can't be developed if you're chasing likes, if you're chasing dollars, if you're chasing follows. But it has to be something that you spend time developing. And sometimes that means even shutting out all of their influences and really just understanding what is it that you want to create. I know for me that social media and the internet can become a time suck. And if not careful, I can find myself spending a lot of time there. And I find that my art is then influenced by what I see rather than what I feel.
That's really, really poignant. The idea that we are influenced so much visually, that to just kind of turn that around, check in, and figure out what it is that you have to say as an artist, right? I love that. I feel like as you're talking, there's so many things I'm like, I want to write that quote down. Okay, I'm gonna have to listen to the recording. Go back and write that down. I love our conversations so much. Yeah, I am speechless at times when I talk to you because I just like listening to you talk. So I'm gonna go to the next one so you can just talk some more.
But it was another thing that, we had check-ins as friends. As photographers, you develop friendships with other photographers, and you have these check-ins during that whole quarantine time. I heard so much fear, and I just wanted to be that person that would ignite boldness, number one, within myself, but also boldness within my friends, and say, listen, we have no other choice but to move forward, and we have to be bold in our moving forward. And so I wrote that hopefully to inspire boldness within the community, because undoubtedly we need that boldness to move forward.
Are you creating every day? Are you photographing most days? What does that look like right now for you?
I do have a rather busy schedule right now. After I finish this call with you, I am going to be talking with the second photographer for a wedding that we're shooting tomorrow. I have a headshot session later this afternoon, and then setting up some things in a new studio. So I'm extremely excited about new opportunities. And so I am photographing at least 3 to 4 times a week, and rather heavy on the weekends, as some of the quarantine has been lifted. And of course, we're photographing clients with the appropriate measures, keeping social distancing, making sure that we clean equipment, making sure that if checking with clients to make sure that even if they're feeling ill, that we should postpone the session.
Right, all of those safety measures, but yet you're still. I'm going to pull this one up because I love this. You're still photographing some weddings, as it sounds like they're doing some small weddings and things, and obviously photography is still really important to this
So
client.
this is at the height of COVID. The client calls and says, we were supposed to have this wedding. I believe that's April 4th or something to that sort. And,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
we're not going to have it, but we want to still have this intimate ceremony in a place called Meridian Hill Park, or also known as Malcolm X Park to the DC natives. And I had to take a moment to really consider, is this something that I want to do? How do I feel? Because to be honest, Angela, I suffered with a lot of anxiety during the height of COVID, maybe for the first 2 to 3 weeks.
I think a lot of us did. Yeah, and still do, quite honestly.
Yeah, but I'm better able to manage it,
Mm.
but it kept me up late at night.
Mm.
I wasn't getting a lot of sleep. And I decided to be bold and to face with wisdom this opportunity and say, you know what, this is what I'm passionate about. Let's take the precautionary methods, but let's also take this opportunity to photograph this intimate ceremony for this client. And, I use the term client, but really they're like friends. You spend so much time with them planning these sessions,
Yeah.
consultation calls, and they really become friends. And I had the opportunity to photograph this very intimate ceremony, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful. It's a very public park, rather quiet that Sunday morning. We had a few onlookers who, as the couple kissed, did even give cheers and things like that. One guy was like, "Hey, I can come help you," and I'm like, "Thanks a lot, but I'll do this myself." Of course, making sure that we kept social distancing with the client as well as we didn't have too many people there. This intimate ceremony was so beautiful, and I was on another call recently with the founder of Munaluchi Bridal, and I had the opportunity to talk with her. And I sent this to her, and I said, I know that you guys are looking for COVID love stories, and I'd love to give you a couple of mine. And I was so honored to have this particular, what I'll call COVID love story, featured on the Munaluchi Bridal website on one of their blogs.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's really wonderful. Being able to share your stories, and I think that's such a great opportunity for photographers right now, is to continually share their images, because a lot of businesses are looking to utilize, visual the visual work that we create in their stories,
Certainly,
right?
certainly.
I'm going to go back to the top because, gosh, there's so much good stuff here. But I wanted, this
Thanks.
is new. So since I looked at your Instagram, this one's new. And this is kind of really speaking to where we are today and to what other people are doing. And that's one of the things I loved about your Instagram too, is you really shine a light on and help other people, get what they need and support them. So tell me this story.
Yeah, I have been fortunate to have some of the best clients. These clients are therapists, these clients are doctors, dentists, realtors, and um, I've just really been fortunate to have great clients. This particular client by the name of Brittany Patrick has an awesome project called 1000 Mass DC. And I received her inquiry in a rather interesting way. I was scrolling social media, and it was rather late at night as I was prepping for a session for the following morning, and I received her inquiry. She said that she needed a headshot or a portrait because she was going to be featured in a magazine, and it was rather late notice. I mean, I don't know that we had less than 10 hours. And when she told me that um, there was a greater cause for this, but that this interview was featuring her
Mhm.
as she was hoping to provide 1,000 masks for the homeless population in DC. Um, I then felt that I was working with a person who wasn't last minute, but I was working with a person who was fulfilling their calling. As I later photographed the next morning, um, sunrise, and sunrise right now is roughly around 6:45, but we met on Capitol Hill around 6:45, 7 o'clock,
Yeah.
and I photographed Brittany, and she told me the story behind 1,000 Masks. She said she was going to a gas station to, of course, get gas, and a young lady approached her and was going to give her money. This young lady was homeless, and the reason why the young lady was giving her money was to go get one of the beef jerkies at Slim Jim. And Brittany said to the young lady, "Well, why don't you go get it yourself?" And she said, "Well, because I don't have a face mask."
Mm,
Angela, when I heard that story, I almost cried
yeah.
because we're oblivious to it. We're so privileged
Yeah.
that we can
Yeah.
afford masks, that we have these masks and things, but this young lady was homeless and didn't have a mask. And as a result, she couldn't get beef jerky as she's already less fortunate. And I knew that I had become a part of something greater than myself by accepting the call to wake up earlier than normal, to photograph Brittany Patrick on Capitol Hill so that she could use these portraits for that article where she would be featured, to then raise money to provide masks for those who are less fortunate. I'm still choked up by this because, you know, portraits really matter because people matter. Whomever you are,
Yes, yes.
people matter, and that's why portraits matter. Um, Historically, portraits were made of those who are dignitaries because they were wealthy enough to be able to afford them. Now, with the invention of digital photography and even cell phone photography, everyone can have a portrait. And I believe everyone should have a portrait because at the end of the day, everyone's important. So I was so proud to be a part of that project for Brittany. And I recently spoke with her, and she said that as a result of my sharing this on social media, of course, a tool which is powerful, she was able to raise even more money. So I'm extremely honored to be a part of that project. So
Oh,
for me, that was the highlight.
yeah, I love that story. And like I said, that's what drew me to you, was just all of the good that you're putting out. And honestly, and beauty. I mean, look at this. This is amazing. I love this. I just
Are you familiar with Anita Baker?
I am, yeah. Yeah.
So Anita Baker, I forgot what project it is, has this album cover. It's the album that has Rapture of Love. Um, and she's posed in this way. It's very intimate. And we wanted to create something that resembled that. And so going back to technique and having mentors, one of the things I learned in posing from the great photographer Lindsay Adler, of course, I'm sure you're aware of who she is.
Yeah,
And
we love Lindsay.
she uses these triangles. And so if you look through this model's body, you see varying triangles. And um, I looked at Anita Baker's pose, and I looked and I was able to identify those same triangles. I was like, oh, wow. So when we posed this model, I wanted to incorporate a lot of those same triangles, the intimacy and the beauty. And one of the things that's really grasped me about creating portraits for women is that it doesn't take a lot. You don't have to sexualize them, but through great light, through great posing. I'm very emotive in my posing. It's not 1, 2, 3, do this, bend your elbow this way, bend your elbow that way. It's rather imagine yourself somewhere. Because I believe that as we imagine ourselves in certain areas that may be peaceful or serene, that it affects us psychologically and it shows in our body language.
Yeah.
And then from there, we can make minor tweaks to everything else. Um, I remember as a musician watching Sade perform um, through some of her concerts abroad. You can watch those on YouTube. She was so gorgeous, so beautiful, but if you've seen Sade perform, she's normally in something like a white button down and jeans, but yet she's stunning.
Mm.
And so I believe that it doesn't take a lot to make our subjects stunning. It just takes them being able to realize their inner beauty through simple direction from you as a photographer.
I want to talk about that more because the another image that really captivated me when I was going through here was this beautiful woman. I just her head back
Oh, my
like
friend
laughing. I
Brianna.
love this. I love this image, and I love what you wrote about it, especially the last part. Um, you know, photography stuff transcends money and success. It's life, and it's deeply fulfilling work. So yeah, let's talk about her. She's magnificent.
Brianna is a client, but of course I call my clients friends. Um, the most kind person ever.
Mm.
Um, when we met, I typically have a habit of shaking hands with clients to keep things, of course, professional. And she said, "No, we're not shaking hands. Come give me a hug." And just the most kind person ever. Speaking to her kindness, she recently became an adopted mom for two teenagers.
Wow.
Just the kindest person ever. Um, we were making portraits for her because she also blogs and different things like that. And I wanted something that was bold, authentic for her. Um, and, we could go into posing and different things like that. But I found that through photographing her, that it was small things that would really help her demonstrate authentic inner beauty. And so rather than one, two, three poses, we use a lot of emotive things like, um, what would your laugh be, or what would the joy be if you won the lotto? And, there's a laugh there, two, three. But then I said, well, what if you shared it with me? And then she laughed right there and said, I'm not sharing it with you. And then the laugh continued.
So that's what that laugh is.
That's what the laugh is. I'm not sharing my winning lotto numbers with you.
That's wonderful.
Um, I really like to pose subjects in very finding good light. That's number one. The good challenge is finding light. From there, it's composition, and from there, it's snapping those moments. Um, yeah, so that's the background of that.
I love it. I love it. You're staying so busy during this time that, and I think that's the other thing that I know as I'm going through this, I see over and over again. But you're also speaking to the times. This is such a great image of this young man. So he's working hard. You're shining a light on those who are working hard, doing good
You
things.
know, like I said in my previous post that you just pictured, this transcends money. This is fulfilling work because this gentleman right here by the name of Marquand, who I and his family call Quan, um, he's a high school graduate with honors, and he's going to Cornell. I've had the opportunity now to photograph him twice, and I'll be photographing his family later in my fall family portrait series later this year. But I was fortunate enough to photograph this achieving senior and be able to, in some small way, have influence in his life. And that's an honor. I don't have children. I have nieces and nephews and younger brothers. But um, this was an honor to be a part of his life for that small moment to photograph him and to create portraits for him that will last as a legacy. Maybe not for him, but certainly a legacy to his children and to his children's children. And if we speak about legacy through portraiture, I got started in photography by looking at portraits of my great grandparents and grandparents. I went home to California. I'm from Long Beach, California. And it had been 3 months into photography, something that really I had at that time really, I guess you would say, dabbled in. It wasn't for sure that I really wanted to do this. But as I looked at those portraits while I was at home of my great grandparents and my grandparents, I saw so much rich history there. I'm fortunate enough to still have my grandparents living. They're in their late 80s.
Wow.
And when I think about all of that my grandparents have been through in their 60 plus years of marriage, historically, we're talking civil rights, we're talking the 70s, we're talking the 80s, um, and all that came along with those eras. Um, those portraits spoke to me of where my family has come from. And undoubtedly, if my family has come through all of that and having a lasting love and building a great family, then certainly I myself, in times like these, whether it's dealing with systematic racism, whether it's dealing with COVID. You asked me how I was doing, considering the times. a lot of what I create sometimes is to speak to the issues that we face also even in life, namely as African American people. And I guess I didn't speak to that in the beginning of this call because really it's nothing new to me.
Mm.
It's something that I've internalized, but in internalizing it, rather than internalizing it in a negative way, what I've tried my best to do as an artist is, like Nina Simone said, to speak to the times in which we live. And so for me, it's photographing African American men who are high achieving in order to speak contrary to the negative stereotypes that sometimes are placed upon African Americans, and namely African American men. It's photographing things and photographing women in good light and posing them in non-sexual ways, because all women are powerful. And I can speak specifically to Black women being powerful because I have a family full of powerful Black women. And I believe that we really have voices as photographers to speak to these issues. And it goes back to everything that I said previously. We cannot get sucked into Instagram likes and follows, but we have to find our voice and speak to those issues to the best of our ability as we are building and refining our skills. We have this voice and we certainly have to speak to these issues, and we have a great method to do it, and that's through our gifting and using platforms like Instagram.
And you do it in such a beautiful and such a loving way. I again love this one. This is one of my other favorite posts that you did, which is just speaking to everything that you were just talking about, and the way you portray people and your love for people. I feel like the thing that I get from you when I go through this is that true love that you have for everyone who
Yeah,
sits in front of your camera or just enters your life. And I think that just comes through loud and clear in everything you're doing.
thanks. This portrait was so much fun to make. A client friend by the name of Erin, she runs an influencer blog, um, talking about hair, talking about life, even talking about what it's like um, to be an influencer and an African American woman, namely an African American queer woman in today's society. And I love how bold and powerful she is, even with her voice. Um, she certainly influences me to be bold, um, to speak to issues as well.
This one also, again, is speaking to the times that we're in, right?
So if you notice something, the gentleman in that portrait is the same gentleman who we spoke to previously, who had graduated and is headed to Cornell.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Yes, he
Oh,
wasn't able to have a prom.
oh, okay. Yeah.
Um, as a result of COVID, no one's going to prom.
Right.
And he and his family called me and said, hey, we can't go to prom, but we want portraits. And I said, let me think about that, because this is now, I believe, May-ish or something like that. And anxiety for me had subsided somewhat, or shall I say maybe dramatically, but I'm still like, I'm good staying home. But as I
Right.
as I talked as I thought about it more and talked with my girlfriend about it, I decided to take the drive down to Richmond. But I wasn't going to take the drive down to Richmond just to create portraits that anybody in Richmond could take.
Mm,
I had to create portraits that would be something that would last and leave a legacy. So I knew that
mm-hmm.
there were, in Richmond, they were getting rid of a lot of the Confederate statues. And I knew that certain verbiage was on the statues that would speak to the times. So I wanted to photograph Quan and his date Sydney at the statues, along with other places, but this portrait really meant something for me because, again, speaking to the times in which we're living.
I love that. I was just going through some of our notes. I could, again, talk to you for days, because I love your presence, the way you gift people with your kindness and your heart. and your wisdom and inspiration. Is there anything, as we're kind of wrapping this up, is there anything else you would like to just share with our audience on, hopeful note of where we're going and what they can do as artists to make an impact in our world?
Certainly. If anything, would tell any artist, no matter what genre of art you're in, we have to move forward. We have to move forward. I know that things are uncertain. I know that we may have been affected financially, but at the end of the day, you have a gifting and you have to move forward. That moving forward might mean hiring a therapist to talk through the issues that you're facing. That might mean getting in community with other creatives to build community to move forward. That moving forward might mean finding a mentor to help you with the new issues of which we face as creatives. But you have to move forward because the world needs your art. You have been blessed,
Yeah.
divinely gifted with this gift, whether it's music, whether it's art, whether it's photography, whether it's graphic design, whatever it is, you have to move forward because the world needs your voice. If anything I were to say is move forward. Don't let fear cripple you.
I love that. Myron, thank you so much for joining us today. I can't tell you how much I
Angela,
appreciate your voice
thank
and
you
your
for
heart.
having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And I just want to let everyone know, don't worry, we're going to have lots more Myron coming up. We're going to be working with him on some other projects because he has too much goodness to share. And we're excited to be able to bring this to you. Myron, thank you so much. I'm sure we'll be chatting with you soon.